Nice big turnout today. Thanks for coming down. I'm going to talk about a significant series of arrests that were made over the past couple of days in relation to some gang violence in the downtown east side. Vancouver police have arrested 3 men. They are gang members, and they are involved, we believe they were involved in an ongoing conspiracy to commit murder. This is part of the VPD's ongoing efforts to combat organized crime and reduce violence in the downtown east side. VPD's organized crime section launched a project. It's called Project Thunder. We launched this investigation late last month after receiving information about a conspiracy to commit murder against a known drug trafficker in the downtown east side. The investigation unfolded over the last 2.5 weeks and culminated just this past weekend with a series of arrests. Brian Corrali Miller, a 26-year-old from Vancouver, and Stefan Janik, a 25-year-old of New Westminster, were both arrested Saturday night around Patterson Station in Burnaby by the Vancouver Police Department's emergency response team. They have both been charged with conspiracy to commit murder. A third suspect, who's a 20-year-old Vancouver man named Cameron Oppenheim, was arrested Tuesday at his residence in Vancouver. This is a significant development in our ongoing efforts to fight organized crime and reduce violence in the downtown east side. We've spoken about that a number of times over the past several months. The Vancouver Police Department has become increasingly concerned about violence, weapons, organized crime, shootings in the downtown east side, and we believe this is a significant development. These 3 individuals, we believe, were members of organized crime groups, namely the Independent Soldiers and the Red Alert, which are both organized crime groups, street gangs, that are involved in drugs, weapons, and violence in the downtown east side. So it's our hope that these arrests will have a noticeable impact on safety in the community. As always, our first priority in the city is public safety. In the downtown east side, there are a number of vulnerable residents, and our goal is to do whatever we can to protect that vulnerable population. Miller and Janik were both charged Sunday. Oppenheim appeared in court earlier today, and they have all since been released from custody. Oppenheim is also a suspect. He's under investigation for a home invasion that occurred October 3rd in Vancouver's West End. If you have any specific questions, I will try to answer them. As you can appreciate, this is now before the courts, so I will be somewhat limited in what I can say about the investigation, but I'll do my best to answer your questions.
Can you tell us a little bit about the circumstances surrounding the arrests on Saturday? Was that, did the people come willingly, or what exactly took place when that arrest happened?
The Vancouver Police Department's emergency response team did effect an arrest of these 2 individuals in Burnaby on Saturday. The specific timing of the arrest, the specific reasons why it occurred in that particular case is not something that I'm able to get into.
You said the ERT team?
Emergency response team, yes.
And I understand maybe dogs as well were involved?
Canine units were involved in that arrest as well, and that would be a typical standard practice for VPD canine units to assist with the emergency response team when they make an arrest.
You say Vancouver police are increasingly concerned about gang activity in the downtown east side. So is something changing or shifting that police are noticing? Is it just an increase in activity generally, or what are investigators seeing?
Well, we've spoken a number of times over the past weeks and months about our concerns in the downtown east side. On September 19th, Deputy Chief Chow stood up here and he expressed concern about rising violence in the downtown east side. At that time, he spoke about Oppenheimer Park and how our belief is that Oppenheimer Park is acting as a magnet for predators and people who are wanting to prey on the vulnerable population in the downtown east side. Certainly it's a neighborhood that has its challenges, and we are doing whatever we can to protect vulnerable people in that community and to keep people safe. Now, this is a significant development. We still have a lot of work to do. By no means is it done, and we will continue to do everything we can to combat organized crime, violence, and keep people safe in that neighborhood.
Can you speak about the kind of public safety risk that this criminal element creates in the neighborhood?
Well, certainly first of all, there's a large segment of that population, 18, 20, 22,000 people who live in that neighborhood who are vulnerable. There are a number of people who choose to prey on the vulnerable members in that community through organized crime, drug trafficking, committing violence. Our job is to protect vulnerable people, the vulnerable members of that community. We've seen in recent weeks and months a number of shootings, a lot of gun activity in that neighborhood, which is a concern for us. The shootings have been, for lack of a better word, brazen in public places, very populated places. And we have invested a lot of resources here at the Vancouver Police Department to solve those crimes and to protect the public. We have increased enforcement. We have increased our police presence in the downtown east side. We've increased investigations. We talked about 3 shootings that occurred over a 15-hour period between September 22nd and September 23rd, all believed to be targeted, all believed to be linked to gang activity. With the efforts of our investigative teams as well as our frontline patrol officers, we were able to arrest a number of people involved with those 3 shootings and obtain criminal charges against individuals in 2 of those 3 shootings. The third one is still very much under investigation. So as I say, we're making significant progress in our efforts to reduce violence, combat organized crime in the downtown east side, and protect vulnerable people in that community.
Are these arrests related to the shootings from last month?
We're currently looking at any connections that these individuals may have to other incidents in the downtown east side, but I can't speak specifically to their involvement in any other incidents.
Are the individuals charged, are they fairly high level, or are they lower level sort of drugs for life?
The information that I've been given is these are mid-level. These are mid-level individuals in these gangs. I don't have personal knowledge of the rank structure in the gangs, but I think it's fair to say that they'd be characterized as mid-level gang members.
So is this a big hit for them, for the gangs, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. This is a significant arrest for us. This is a significant development for us because it sends a message to anybody who's involved in organized crime and anybody in that community that we're going to do what we can to protect people in that neighborhood and to fight organized crime to combat violence.
And you said, are all 3 of them now out of custody?
They've been released from custody, yes. I believe the third one, Mr. Oppenheim, may be released shortly. However, they will not be held in custody. And you can check the court registry for their upcoming court appearances.
There's been a police camera tower put up kitty corner from Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
How's that going? Are you seeing anything more than you would see if you had officers there in addition to that?
Yeah, sorry, thanks for mentioning that. I neglected to, when I was speaking about some of the efforts that we've made to protect the public and combat some of the violence that we're seeing there. One of our strategies is to deploy this public safety camera, which has been deployed around Oppenheimer Park, and it's a camera that simply records activity. I can't speak to any evidence that's been gathered by that camera that may be used in ongoing investigations, but certainly it's a valuable tool that we use in that neighborhood and we've used previously to fight crime.
Does it seem to be making any difference?
Again, I can't speak to any specific evidence that's been gathered, but it is a valuable investigative tool that we use, and it's there for a good reason.
The home invasion said the Oppenheim is
Oppenheim.
Was that a targeted, believed to be targeted as well? It wasn't a random break-in someone's place? It was believed that they were going after someone specific?
So the home invasion that I referenced, that Mr. Oppenheim is currently being investigated for, is something that is still under investigation. I can't get into evidence or specific details about that.
You can't say whether it was...
No, I'm sorry, I just can't. It's still under investigation, and for the integrity of the investigation, it would be inappropriate for me to speak to it.
And there were other people arrested in connection with that as well?
Yes, there were. Sorry, I'm just going back from memory here. I believe there were 3 people arrested on October 3rd following a break-in or home invasion that occurred in the West End. I believe it was Denman and Harrow Street.
Do you know, I don't know if you have that info about the other 2 arrested? So I take it was he one of the 3 arrested?
Mr. Oppenheim is under investigation in relation to that. His specific role is not something that I can speak to and not something I'm aware of.
Okay, so you can't confirm whether he was one of the people arrested that day?
No, I can't.